when you hear the word suicide?
Lost.
No?
What did she say?
What are some of the things that come up for you when you hear suicide? Pain,
Depression.
depression. So if I had a little bit more time, I would have played for you this song by Rob Thomas, it's called "Unwell." The reason why I picked that one specifically, it has a verse that says, "I'm not crazy, I'm just a little unwell." Right now you can't tell, but if you stay a while, then you'll see a different side of me. I'm not crazy, I'm just a little impaired. So that really summarizes the way that a lot of suicidal people feel. They feel confused, they feel alone, they feel like no one understands them. So if you get nothing else out of this talk today, one thing, hope. It's all about hope. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later today, but we have 4 main goals. Kind of help you recognize some of the facts about suicide, some of the signs, how to raise awareness, and more importantly, 3 very specific things you can do if you know someone who has experienced suicidal thoughts. So just a couple of quick facts. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for college students. The first one is accidents, including car accidents. So unintentional injury, but suicide is a very close second. 40% of us know someone who has attempted suicide, and 28 of students who were surveyed nationally actually knew someone who completed suicide. So that's pretty significant. We have over 1/4 or almost 50%. So that means that chances are, even in a room this size, one of us has experienced suicidal ideation personally or has someone close to us who might experience it at some point in their lives. So a little bit more facts. Asking someone directly does not give them the idea. It actually does the opposite. It actually shows them that you're noticing them. It decreases their anxiety to ask for help. It opens up communication, and basically that's the most important thing. When I was talking about hope, hopelessness is the #1 predictor of when people actually attempt suicide. So just by showing them that you see them, you care, and you're trying to talk to them about it, could be the biggest thing you can do. It also lowers the risk of an impulsive act. So if they're thinking about it, they're kind of dwelling on it, if you kind of help them get that out of their chest, it can make such a big difference. Most suicidal people communicate their intent a week prior, so this is very important. So if someone tells you, some people react by, you're just being dramatic, you're just wanting attention, but if they actually say something very direct and specific, it means we should be paying attention. People who talk about suicide will try, they will attempt, or even complete an act of self-destruction. And the thing to keep in mind, it is one of the most preventable forms of death. We like to compare it to CPR. So CPR wasn't very popular back in the day, but now people are required to do that at certain jobs, right? Nurses, paramedics, even sometimes teachers. So there's something called QPR, question, persuade, and refer, that's very similar to CPR. And that's the equivalent to suicide prevention. Fortunately, I cannot teach you that specifically, because for every person who learns that, it's very expensive. But I've taken some of the concepts to help you know what to do. And if you're interested in QPR, let me know, and we can try to set something up later, but it just means you might have to pay out. Okay, so the thing about suicidal thoughts, it can affect anyone. They don't care how old you are, how strong you are, how intelligent you are, how spiritual you are. They don't care what our ethnicity or race is, how rich we are, whom we love, what we've done with our lives, where we were born, or even how we identify. So people with suicidal thoughts often feel like they're drowning by themselves. They literally feel like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. We're going to be talking about 4 signs of suicide: direct, indirect, behavioral, and situational. Any ideas of what this might include?
What you're talking about.
Actually speaking something. All right, so in terms of verbal, direct, something very specific. They actually use the word kill or suicide. I decided to kill myself, I wish I were dead, I'm going to commit suicide, I'm going to end it all. If this doesn't happen, I'll kill myself. So they're very specific. They put the words out there. For the last example, for college students, it could include something like, if I don't pass this test, if I don't pass this class, if I don't get my financial aid, if my parents don't approve of this, then I'm gonna kill myself. So it might seem like it's a very specific thing that they're kind of dramatizing, but it really feels that strong for them. Indirect, it's a little bit different. It's still spoken. They kind of hint at it. So something like, I'm tired of life. I just can't go on anymore. My family will be better off without me. My classmates will be better off without me. My friends, or even you. You will be better off without me. I'm such a burden. So they're kind of hinting at it, but not usually worse, death, suicide, or killed. Another example, who cares if I'm dead anyways? I just want out. I won't be around much longer, and pretty soon you won't have to worry about me. So they're still indicating that they're not planning to be around for the future. They're just not saying it directly. So this is almost like they're testing the waters, kind of seeing if you care, if you're comfortable with it, and if they would open up a little bit more. In terms of behaviors, substance use, like relapse after a period of recovery. Previous suicide attempts, that's the #1 predictor if they're gonna try it in the future. Acquiring means to hurt themselves. So for women, it often tends to be non-lethal, like pills, and it also depends what type of pills and how much, the amount of it. So oftentimes when women attempt, they don't succeed. For men, it tends to be more violent. They will try things like hanging, a gun, so things that would actually literally kill them. Putting personal affairs in order or giving away their prized possessions, like maybe thinking about a will, starting to put away their books. If they have something they really like, kind of giving it to you as a token, and you're like, but your grandfather gave you that clock or that watch, you sure you want to give it to me? So anything you know that's very meaningful for them, any tangible good, and they're getting rid of it, that's a big red flag. Anger, aggression, irritability, or depression. Especially if it's out of the norm. If it's someone that most of the time they seem very calm, very chill, and all of a sudden they're getting impatient, kind of just irritable all the time, that's oftentimes a sign of depression. Sudden interest or disinterest in religion. So either they're saying, God doesn't care, I'm not going to church anymore, when they used to go every Sunday, every Wednesday, or the opposite. It's almost like they're trying to find meaning in their lives. So the thing to keep in mind is anything out of the ordinary, any sudden, drastic, and long-term changes, that's what you want to be paying attention to. And when you're in a position where you can observe people over a long period of time, that's really the most you can do. Like if you're a teacher, if you're a classmate, anytime where you see people on a continuous basis, that's when you can notice the changes. And situational. So something like being fired from work, being expelled from school, having a diagnosis of a serious or terminal illness. Cancer is a very common one. Fear of being a burden to others. So feeling like we said earlier, those indirect verbal cues, you'll be better off when I'm gone. Loss of any major relationship, not just romantic. Could be including professors, mentors, counselors, any big significant friendship. For men, it tends to be most often romantic when there's a major breakup with a long-term or significant relationship. For women, it can tend to be one of the other ones listed here. Death of a spouse, child, parent, best friend, especially if it was done by suicide. So that's another thing to look out for. When someone's parents die, we pay a lot of attention because that can be a very significant life event. Grief is very complex. There's a lot of different emotions altogether. Grief, sadness, anger, disappointment, bitterness. And oftentimes all those emotions are very overwhelming to people. That they might actually think this is never gonna go away. Or they know intellectually, because the emotions are so strong, they would rather just end it all. So the thing about suicide, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And even when people know things can change, their pain is so intense that they just want it over with. Sudden unexpected loss of freedom, life or punishment, no, fear of punishment, or a recent or unwanted move. So we're talking about 4 different major categories. The more signs you notice, the bigger the risk. So just because someone's maybe saying, I'm gonna drop out of school, it's not necessarily a cause of concern, but if they just lost a parent, if they don't have financial resources, if they just broke up with their girlfriend, when you put all of that together, the more the signs, the greater the risk. Any questions about those 4?
So I think like a big concern for us as teachers is that there is a large number of students lately that have been committing suicide, especially in the middle school range, 4 through 8. And a lot of the descriptors that we hear when we read about it is that their girlfriend broke up with them, boyfriend broke up with them, they are too ugly and nobody's gonna like them, or it's something that's pushed on, intimidated to them by another person or another group of people that makes them feel like they have no other choice.
Rejection, bullying, especially when they're at that age, it's very difficult to cope with. Even if they try to open up to their parents because the peers are constantly there, oftentimes it doesn't matter that they feel mom and dad are there for me when they have to deal with classmates 40 plus hours a week. So yeah, it is becoming younger and younger.
Is there a reason as to why there has been a spike?
There's different theories. One of them is the increase in cyberbullying. And then, I can't remember the name of the effect, but if they witness someone committing suicide, normally there's a spike in suicidal thoughts. So it's almost like a domino effect. Main campus actually had a suicide about a month ago, and they're really seeing an increase in people coming to the counseling center with suicidal thoughts. So that's why we're saying if there's a death, especially by suicide, it's almost like it kind of triggers, it kind of normalizes it.
It's like an open door. It's like,
Yes.
It's like opening the door.
It seems like an option. If the person I care about took their life, maybe it's an option for me.
Yeah, because my little cousin committed suicide about 3 months ago. And then my other little cousin, which is his younger sister, tried committing suicide shortly after.
Yeah, it kind of normalizes it, it opens the door like you said, and it makes them feel like if it was an option for that person, it's probably an option. Any other questions?
Oh, I was just gonna comment on another cost maybe. I remember in high school, which was still like very recent, it was probably my junior year, there was this one girl that I used to know, and she was in my speech class, and she gave a presentation over transgender. So, you know, I suppose, I assumed that she was becoming a male, as opposed to she was a female, and her culture, perhaps, there was a lot of issues between her parents and her, so I think that's the reason why she actually did commit suicide. So.
That's a good point. Transgender people are at highest risk for suicide and sexual violence, unfortunately. And culturally, you're right. For some cultures, it's more accepted. In the United States main culture, suicide is almost like taboo. Like people hear that word and they get scared. In other cultures, in the Japanese culture, you have honor killings. Middle Eastern cultures, like if someone is dishonored, you bring dishonor in your family, then the honorable thing is to kill yourself. So it can vary by culture of origin too.
Do you think that the media sensationalizes it a little bit too, like with the movies, the Netflix series, 13 Reasons Why? No.
That was some of the debate going around, that they're showing it, but they're not showing the whole picture. Sometimes it could be, the influence, how much airtime or screen time they get. Again, it normalizes everything. The bad thing is that it normalizes it in the negative situation, where people think, okay, I should do it. But it doesn't normalize it in the sense of people will experience this at some point in their life, let's talk about it, let's get help. And so
So another thing that I've noticed, because my daughter is 12, and she's had friends that have started cutting themselves, and then I have a son who has female friends that confide in him, that send him pictures of after they cut themselves. And I know, like, one thing that you can notice is if you have a student that, always wore short sleeves and, like was comfortably dressed, but then it's not winter, it's warm outside, they start wearing longer sleeves, or they start hiding certain parts of their bodies they didn't normally hide. how would you approach that situation without making them feel attacked, to where you can maybe show them that you're there for them? You know what I'm saying? How would you because I've told these girls that my son talks to, they're 17, their home situations are the reason they're doing this, because they're both lesbian and their families don't accept them, that if they want out, they're 17, I will help them find somewhere to live, I will help them get out of that situation. But it's hard for them to want to leave the other parent or the other person or a sibling there, and so it becomes an issue. But if you know this situation's going on, how do you help these kids without making it harder on them with their families?
Good question. We're going to talk about it in a little bit, but it's being willing to notice. So number one, you're noticing now they're wearing long sleeves, right? So paying attention. The second one is being willing to ask the question, are you okay? And the third one is knowing your resources. And I'll go through all of that in a minute.
I'm gonna say another indicator, because I have, she's as well can be right now, but she was a cutter and very suicidal. I was actually told my child would live to be 18. And another doctor told me my child would live the next 90 days. I mean, it was just an ongoing thing for a long period of time with the emotional disturbed tendencies. But the child had cut for a long time and we didn't know. And she was layering bracelets and wearing all black and long sleeves and it was the summer months. I was like wearing all black and just in the gothic look and just it was getting more ostentatious and more ostentatious. And the behavior thing it wasn't sudden. It was a gradual build that was. You could have a whole month worth of emotions in one day with this child. From extreme anger, where you don't want to be in the way of a chair flying at you. It was over just bringing medicine to her, or over nothing, or threatening her siblings, over nothing and anything she could think of.
Yeah, so it goes back to what you were asking. How do you ask in a way where they're more receptive to your support? The thing with cutting, if it's done this way, it's usually for self-harm and for emotional reasons.
Control.
If it's like that, that's usually intent to kill, because that's when they're actually ripping at the veins. That's when the
She carved in her leg words. Not good.
So I'm going to show you a short video. It's called In Texas We Care. So it's going to talk about, we're going to try it at home so you can hear the video. It will be there. We posted there permanently. All right, so the video was trying to show three main things. So in order to help prevent suicide, number one thing is to ask. Be sincere in how interested you are in how others are doing. If you don't have time to really hear the answer, because oftentimes we're like, how are you? Hey, how are you? Fine. And we kind of just run by each other in the hallways. So we do have that culture where when someone asks, how are you? How are you doing? We don't expect the other person to actually care. So make sure that you actually have time for an answer. If they were to say, I'm not doing well, I'm not okay. The second thing is to encourage them to talk with others, so increasing their social support. Suicide is often about loneliness, feeling like no one understands you. It can also be very stressful for you as the person trying to offer support. You feel like, I'm not sure what to do. So what happens after I ask? So we really encourage you to refer. It's not your job to try to be their therapist, but you can make such a big difference by showing that you care, that you notice them. So refer them to us if you're here on campus, refer them to school counselors if you're out in a placement in a school district, and I'll give you some more information about local resources in Houston. So three things: ask, encourage, and refer. The most important thing, ask and refer them. How to ask? So if you have any doubt, don't wait. If you're that concerned about them, if you have like this gut feeling like, I'm not sure they're doing all right, it's better to be on the safer side. Like the video was showing that some people didn't want to intrude, they didn't want to offend, they didn't want to make people mad. But if they don't, then they feel guilty. They're like, man, I knew something wasn't wrong. I wanted to ask, I should have asked. So when in doubt, ask. If the person is kind of hesitant, doesn't really want to open up, it's okay to be persistent, not like in their face, but it's okay to tell them, it's okay, I want to know. I can tell you're not doing okay, I'm here for you. So that's what they mean by persistence, not like, I know something's wrong, tell me, tell me, tell me. The other thing is that it's better when they're alone. If it's in a group, they might not feel comfortable. And allow them to talk. Sometimes, like I said, it's just about getting it off their chest. They're more likely to be responsive to someone that they trust to someone that they feel closer to than someone who's kind of a random stranger. Like I said earlier, make sure you don't have somewhere else that you really have to go to. Make sure you have time to listen. Have your resources available, phone numbers, contact information, and anything else that might be helpful. So here's a sample of the questions. So direct is always better, but even asking indirectly is better than not asking at all. So if you ask kind of a close-ended question, have you been very unhappy lately? They're like, nope. You kind of don't allow the space for them to really talk, right? And they have an easy out, yes or no. Have you been so very unhappy that you're thinking about ending your life? So it's getting more direct. The other one, it's very common. Do you ever wish you could go to sleep and never wake up? So even if you're not talking directly about death, suicide, dying, killing, when someone says, I just want to go to sleep and never wake up, that's usually a very good indicator too. So more direct questions. I'm wondering if you're wishing you were dead. You look like you're really hurting. I wonder if you're thinking about suicide. Are you thinking about killing yourself? So you really do have to become very comfortable using those words. Many people will hesitate. I don't want to give them the idea. Thing is, if you're thinking about them committing suicide, they've probably been thinking about it way longer than you have. So you're not giving them the idea. You're not going to make them do it. And that's often the hesitation that people have. It's actually the other way around. By not saying something when we notice it, that actually increases the chances of them actually attempting. Second thing, to encourage someone. Listen and give them your full attention. So make sure you're not on your phone, make sure you're not distracted, make sure you're ready to be fully engaged. And remember, it's a solution to something that's perceived as having no resolution. Don't judge, don't say comments like, don't feel that way, oh, you shouldn't think that way, that's not a big deal, because that feels very dismissive. So as much as you can, try to refrain from saying things that you might think are helpful, but they're actually perceiving as they don't care. Offer hope in any way that you can. If they're willing to, ask them, will you go with me to get help? If you're here on campus, you can actually take them to counseling services. We're at the next building. 3rd floor, right next to career services, and you have the location and information there. Or something more, they're like, no, I really don't have time right now. It's kind of ironic, because if they're thinking about killing themselves, you're like, hey, let's go get help. They're like, no, I have to study for this test, or I have to take that test. It's good and bad, because it's showing you that they're still future oriented, but it's also not so good, because you're like, I'm still worried about you, I wish you would come with me. So if they don't want you to take them to get help, at least get a promise, like, please let me know that you won't try to do anything until we get help. The thing with that is that even if they don't keep their promise, it's not your fault. And a lot of people who feel like, wow, I didn't do enough, all I did was try to get them to make a promise. You can do a lot by checking in, but at the end of the day, it is their decision. And then the last one, most important, the best referrals involve taking the person directly to get help. Next best thing is getting a commitment for them to get help on their own, and letting them know what resources they have, their phone numbers, the location. There's even a text that I'm going to show you later, so they can get more support. The third best one, giving them the information and asking them, would you please reach out for help as soon as possible. And then the final one is follow up. If you're recommending that someone seek help, it's always good to follow up in text, phone, person, however you feel more comfortable, but just to make sure that they're actually getting the help that they deserve. What often happens is if they're at a point where they're thinking about actually attempting and you check in, that helps them feel better, at least temporarily, which is a great thing. Those thoughts would come back a couple of days later. So making sure that they follow up, that they're not just like, I feel better, I just needed someone to listen. Because this could often come in cycles. So making sure that they are going where they can get more support. If you want to take a screenshot of this again. So we have campus services here. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They can call at any hour, it's 24/7. The Houston Crisis Line as well. And if they really don't want to make a phone call, sometimes like, oh, I'm not comfortable. Sometimes they're not helpful. I really don't want to make a phone call. If they're more comfortable in text, they can do text. I was looking for a chat, because I think there's also an option where you can literally chat with someone, instant message, but I couldn't find it. But again, they have different options, face-to-face, over the phone, and text. So whatever they feel more comfortable with, that's what you want to encourage them to do. So the main thing is, when we're on campus, we're a small community, right? So kind of letting each other know that we do care. When you're out on assignments and your schools or with different people, knowing your resources on campus or each place where you're going to be at. Just kind of wanted to remind you, we do offer free confidential individual, couples, group, and therapy in English and Spanish. We also have a psychiatrist. So a lot of the times when people experience suicidal ideations, they might be depressed. Not always, but that could be a big predictor. So we do have a psychiatrist. If someone's interested in medication, antidepressants, she will do a full assessment, and she'll make sure that if they need that in addition to counseling, they can get it. We have biofeedback. That's basically a way to help you track stress. It's a laptop, it has some sensors, so you're gonna be able to see how fast your heart rate goes, how much you're sweating, your temperature goes up, the way that your body normally reacts to stress. And then you get to see all these different exercises, deep breathing, muscle relaxation, imagery, to help you cope with stress better. We also have a new therapy though, psychoeducational display, so that's a good one for you all. They're actually changing in about 2 days, starting Wednesday. We are having our displays about suicidal ideation. So if you feel like these resources that I passed out today weren't enough, please feel free. There's one here at Values, there's another one in the other building. So it's gonna have 4 different sites with additional information, and you're welcome to take as many contacts from there. And along with that, we are going to be posting on Facebook for the next 3 weeks about suicide resources, more information for you to support each other.
Yeah.
And then finally, if you want to follow us on Instagram or Pinterest, you're welcome to do so. But Facebook gets updated every day, so that's the one that we're most active in. It's just a helpful resource to have. You can also do search. See if I can show you. If you go to the main page and you hit post, and you do a search here, it's going to pull up the most recent post related to that search term that you're looking for. It's going to give you all the blogs that we have. So if you feel like this was a good introduction, but you want to know a little bit more, Facebook is always a pretty good resource. Any other questions, any additional comments or concerns that anyone may have? It was a lot shorter than we anticipated.
So, just everyone around the club,
And I'll leave the extra copies of the plan.